Yeah, just a quick video just to show I've got a new hard drive today, and I've noticed I haven't got enough SATA power, which is obviously SATA, which are these things. So I'm going to have to splice some together using some cables from an old PSU, because the old drive that I took out, which is only a 500 gig, which I was using temporarily, has got its own Molex power input. But this new drive, obviously the new drives don't have the Molex, they always have SATA power, so there's no way around it unless you get another cable, which I want it working now. I've just undone everything and there's no point in waiting, ordering new bits, so I'm going to use this old PSU cable that I spliced, and I've obviously taken off another one that I had, like a splitter if you like, and I've taken that, so I'm going to split that. I'll show you the end result. Basically I've got to splice 1, 2, 3 sets of wires together just to get power to all the drives, and yeah, I could load it with just the one drive, but that's no good. I want the capability of having all of them powered up, so I'm going to do this splicing and I'll come back. Right, so I've done some splicing, as you can see, on all the cables. Right, the first thing you want to think about after you've done all that is to take these little cable ties off, because you're not going to know what one's the -12 and the -5 because they're both black. It would be nice of them to like somehow make them different, like in colour, so you'd know the difference, but no, it doesn't work like that. So you're going to have to take off all the cable ties. Then you know that obviously the one that's black next to the yellow is your -12, and likewise with the red, if it's next to the red and it's black, it's -5, and that's how you make sure that they're the correct voltage. If you get the voltage wrong, or if you miss one of them out, you could have a catastrophic electrical fault. It could blow up your machine, could start a fire, it could fail to turn on, all sorts of things could happen. I've seen all sorts happen with PSUs, so you need to make sure that you know what you're doing when it comes to the voltage. You want to make sure there's enough cable. If it's just a couple threads, it's no good. You need a good couple threads. You don't want to break any of the wire basically when you're taking off the plastic coating. And I find using a lighter to warm up. After you bend the cable, to make a little bend in it, you light with the lighter so that it doesn't burn it, but it melts it, and it doesn't like set fire to the cable or anything like that. And the bend in it helps you get the scissors in the area there, and then you take off the plastic very, very lightly with the scissors so that you don't cut through the actual metal cable. So anyway, we've got all the cables together now, and they've all got to be soldered, or if you haven't got solder, then you're going to have to use electrical tape on its own, but I recommend soldering all them together correctly, neatly as possible, after taking off the cable ties obviously. And once you've done that, then you want to cover it. You want to put a few layers of electrical tape so there's no exposed wire anywhere. So electrical tape, lighter, scissors, old PSU, and one of them connector cables that you'd normally get on a splitter. I've had to cut that in half to connect it to, and then you can connect to the Molex. Basically, you shouldn't really be able to, you shouldn't really overload your PSU, but if you're only using 1, 2, 3 drives, or maybe 4, you should be okay on just using like one of the outputs basically. But yeah, it's going to be a fun little project. It should be done within half hour, and yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. Right, so I've done all the reds together. How I done it was I tinned the ends of all the cables, put all of them together. That's why it looks like slightly chunky, but I soldered them all together. You might have to wrap the actual solder itself If it's too thin, you might have to double it up so that when you using it, it's adequate enough for the joint. And anyway, after you get a good solder, then wrap it with the electrical tape, making sure there's no exposed bits, and then proceed to do the rest. Hopefully, well, that took like 5 minutes, so I'm guessing within 20 minutes they all should be done, ready to go. Right, I've got it all wired up now, so I plugged it in through the splitter how it was supposed to go. So I haven't spliced the original PSU, so if I change my PSU, it's just a question of unplugging the splitter and then plugging it in the new PSU. Okay, you don't ever splice on your PSU. If you're going to do splicing, make sure you're only cutting up the old PSU, taking the cable off, and then you can use a splitter, splice that, put the old PSU wires with the splitter. So basically you get left over with a Molex there, a Molex there, and it's quite good that way. I've even powered up a backup drive at the top that's not even got a data, because I haven't even plugged the SATA in yet. I'll probably plug that in a second, because I just realised I've got a spare port. So yeah, so you get more drives out of it, and you get loads of these Molex leftovers, because they're for older drives now. But yeah, it's a good money saving tip. It saves you having to spend money on a new PSU and a load of splitters, and you actually get to use a soldering iron. So make sure you unplug your soldering iron when you finish with it. And I use the old PSU as a bench as well. And yeah, it's all part of the fun, all part of learning. So now I'm just gonna plug that other SATA cable in, power it on, and I'll show you it working. Right, there you go, it's all turned on. Obviously it's not going to boot because there's no operating system on the drive yet, it's a brand new drive. I've unplugged all the old drives, which is good practice in my opinion. So yeah, there's the system running. There's no smoke, no fire, no sparks, no shutting down. Everything's working as it should. So just to show that bit of ingenuity, and as I say, necessity is a mother of invention. So yeah, I just couldn't be bothered to order something, to wait fucking days for it to turn up. So it's got to be done. You've got to use your ingenuity. Luckily I had an old PSU and a soldering iron and some solder and some electrical tape and some scissors and a lighter. So if you haven't got wire cutters, I recommend using a lighter, because you need to soften that plastic before you try and strip it off, because if it's a bit too brittle then you could end up going through the wire, and when it gets shorter and shorter it's going to be hard to work with, as you probably know. So yeah, that's a good tip for the day. I'm going to install Windows now.